Alright, I'm about to talk about the most disappointing teams this season. And for the few teams, I wouldn't say they're really lacking of talent, but I just think there's just certain problems with them, especially with the way their roster have been constructed and the way they've been used in their systems. And so, with that being said, let's get into it. So the first team is obvious, and that's the Detroit Pistons. I'd say all around, from the front office to coaching to their players, they have been horrendous. And it's weird because they do have enough talent at every position. I just think they just don't mesh well, and their roster construction since they got Cade as a first overall pick has been really bad. And I think it really affects Cade from the standpoint of him being doubled most of the time and him having no one to really outlet to due to poor shooting percentages. It got a little bit better with Bogdanovic, but that's not enough, and it's affecting him all over where it comes to his efficiency as well as his turnovers, as he has one of the highest turnover rates in the league. This Pistons team is full of young players with potential, but their potential is rarely seen through the minutes they've been getting throughout the season. The problem, though, is the Pistons already have young players that they drafted and trying to develop, and it makes it harder for those young players off the bench to really flourish and improve throughout the season just due to inconsistent minutes. And for Ausar Thompson and Jalen Duren, they're definitely deserving of being starters on a rebuilding team, but when the rest of your players are also young and trying to establish themselves in the league, basically in the same position as those two, but they're getting less minutes, it's harder for them to actually develop properly. And that's why veterans in that case would be the better option for them, but they haven't done that. They just went for potential. But I would say the roster is the least of the Pistons' concerns due to the talent they did bring over the years with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Ausar Thompson, and Jalen Duren. As with the talent they have now, it's clear to see that it's really the front office as well as the coaching staff that have been a problem in these near 2 decades that the Pistons have been trying to rebuild. From a coaching perspective, Monty Williams was really supposed to come in and change their team, not necessarily immediately, but you would see them make strides as compared to his last jobs with New Orleans Pelicans with Anthony Davis, as well as the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker, and how they changed. You would expect the same thing with Monty Williams for the Pistons. And has been nowhere close to what people would have thought, as Monty Williams has been finding trouble finding consistency in lineup changes as well as in their defensive schemes, as they are one of the last teams in defense. But I would say the front office is their biggest problem, as they've been having problems making any good trades, free agency acquisition, and only recently have been making okay draft decisions, but for the most part everything has been poor for them. And even though they made some strides in the draft in the past few years, they still don't have the right fit and the right pieces around each other to really make the team have a true identity or even stay consistent throughout these times, which, as you've seen, that's why they had their 28-game losing streak. I think they do have some bright spots on this team. They just have to utilize all of their strengths with Cade and the rest of their young players and really change this team for the better. But it's going to be hard doing that, knowing what their front office has done recently as well as what they've been doing for the past near 2 decades. My next team is the San Antonio Spurs, and even though they're a well-run organization, they still have some problems with the players. I would say more specifically mindset as well as their lineups. That's been mostly disappointing for them this season. Even though they have Victor Wembanyama, who is a generational talent, I think the roster that is built around them do have talent, but I think there's just a few roster decisions as well as lineup choices that's been hindering their progress with Victor. First, with their lineup change, going from a traditional point guard to having Jeremy Sohan that's mostly played small forward or power forward, taking over the reins as point guard has really made it tough for San Antonio passing and ball movement wise. And with Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, more ball dominant players playing in that lineup and not really distributing in any shape or form, more just shooting their own shots and taking more difficult shots, then playing through Victor Wembanyama and getting easier shots.
I don't know how you miss a 7'4" guy.
Yeah, how do you exactly
I just
not
don't
see him in your
understand
field
that.
of vision there?
Like, he's yelling, throw the ball.
The Spurs still do have an option though with Tre Jones as their point guard, and this gives the Spurs the opportunity to make their team better immediately, as he has found better strides with Victor Wembanyama than Sochan just due to his ability to pass the ball. But I think Popovich is more going for a lineup with more potential. The potential of Jeremy Sochan being a point guard with his defensive capabilities, as well as his ability to switch off of every pick with other players, is probably their best bet as being a top defensive team. But offensively, they have really struggled, and with the rest of the lineup not really keen into the Spurs system, it's kind of hindered the team overall, and it's shown due to their record right now being 5-27 at the time of this recording. It's very disappointing for a Spurs team where they have a generational talent in Victor Wembanyama. This last team is kind of surprising just due to their recent accomplishments as well as their roster, and right now nothing's been really working for them, and that's the Golden State Warriors. So it all starts with Klay Thompson and his decline, as well as Andrew Wiggins' inability to step up and him eventually being sent to the bench in these first couple of months have been the biggest issue, as now I'd say their whole position on the wings are a mess. And it doesn't help that the recent antics of Draymond is really hindering them, as well as he's on an indefinite suspension, and probably the Warriors are determining whether he should be a part of their future or not. But this team right now is really being carried by Stephen Curry and living and dying by his game, and the Warriors has never been a team like that. It's always been a full team effort with depth along their bench, and without both of those things, it's really difficult for the Warriors to be a consistent team, and that's why they're down at this moment. But I'd like to know who's the most disappointing team for you. Please let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching. Please support by liking, commenting, and subscribing. As for me, I'm out.